While you guys get set up to take notes, I just want to refresh our memory. Yesterday, we talked about two ethnic religions, ancient religions from River Valley civilizations, the very first civilizations in human history that we have records of. Judaism arose with Abraham, who was born in Mesopotamia, in the Middle East. And Hinduism, which arose in the Indus River Valley in the Indian subcontinent. Both of these religions don't spread on purpose. They don't look for people to adopt their religion. That's not the point. But both of them served as like the starting point or the inspiration for the universalizing religions that came after. Remember, universal means for everybody. So a universalizing religion is open to everybody, not just specific people from a specific place or ethnicity. In the classical period, we see Christianity emerging out of Judaism, starting in the Middle East as well. And then later in the post-classical period, we'll see Islam emerging in Arabia out of the same basic thread of ideas or genealogy of ideas, if you want. Moving to Asia, in the classical period, we see Buddhism emerging out of Hinduism in a way that appeals to vastly more people and spreads. So today we're going to be looking at Christianity and Buddhism, and then Monday we will look more closely at Islam. Let's start with Buddhism. So if you guys could get ready to take notes, that would be awesome. If anyone still can't see the slides, I will pop these into the chat because they're really pretty and you should see them. Buddhism is pretty neat, I think. And I really love it. Like, even just looking at these pictures gives me a sense of peace. And that's kind of what Buddhism is all about. So that works. Right. Buddhism was founded in India by a guy named Siddhartha Gautama, known to us as the Buddha. He was an upper-caste Hindu. And I'm going to let you guys explore the whole story of how Buddhism began in your classwork, but like the mini version was that he was an upper-caste Hindu, but he was not immune to feeling the suffering of the people around him. And as he explored more about his community, suffering, like human suffering and the cause of it, became a problem that kind of began to obsess him. He latched onto it. And he wanted to know like why suffering exists and what we can do about it. He was a Hindu, but in creating Buddhism, he rejected Hindus' formal rituals and caste system to come up with a philosophy that was more inclusive, I guess you could say. I use the word philosophy because Buddhism is kind of unique as a religion in that not every branch of Buddhism actually believes in a god or a higher power. Some people practice Buddhism just as a way of life, a philosophy, without having to believe in God. Other people think of the Buddha as a god. In other places, Buddhism merged with native religions that were there to begin with, and so like they worship gods but are also Buddhist. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But at the heart of Buddhism are two key ideas: the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And these are ideas that, like, honestly, I think about often. I'm not Buddhist, but these are great ideas for like living a good life and the kind of mental discipline that you need in order to be happy and fulfilled in almost any circumstance. All right, so the Four Noble Truths are these. First, the Buddha saw that life is full of suffering, and he wanted to know what caused it. According to the Buddha, suffering is caused by desire. When we want things, we create pain for ourselves. So our selfish desires and the temporary pleasures of the world harm us. This is something that he wanted to fix. So the third noble truth is that the way to end suffering is to end desires. You won't suffer if you stop wanting things. And to overcome desires and to attain enlightenment, to reach nirvana, if you want. The way to do that is to follow the Eightfold Path. The midpoint between selfish desires and total self-denial. The Eightfold Path is the way to live a good life and find enlightenment. What is the Eightfold Path? The Eightfold Path involves holding the right views, so knowing the truth. Having the right intentions, so clearing your mind of evil. Having the right speech, which means saying nothing that hurts others. Having the right action, which means working for the good of others. Having the right livelihood, so like respecting life. The right effort, resisting evil. And then these last two I think are kind of key. Right concentration means practicing meditation. And then finally, right mindfulness, meaning control your thoughts, having the self-discipline to regulate what you allow yourself to think about, which is where meditation can help. So according to the Buddha, this is how you live a good life. But it's not just about living a good life. It's about reaching nirvana, attaining enlightenment. This is the Buddhist vision of what salvation would be. And here's what the real innovation was. In Hinduism, in order to achieve the Hindu vision of salvation, you have to go through the caste system. You have to live a good life, die, be reborn as a higher caste Hindu, live a good life then to accumulate good karma, die, be reborn again as a higher caste Hindu. And after several lifetimes, you can reach the Hindu vision of salvation. The Buddha says, no, anybody, lowercase Hindus, uppercase Hindus, it doesn't matter. If you follow the Eightfold Path, you can achieve enlightenment in this lifetime. You don't have to die a bunch of times before it happens. I see in the chat we have a question about monks. Yeah, monks practice meditation, which is why you'll see so many pictures like this if you look up Buddhism. It's all about thinking, how you allow yourself to think and controlling your thoughts and being in the present. And even, honestly, even as a non-religious person, for me personally, these ideas have been really helpful at different times in my life. All right, so in terms of the spread, right, Buddhism is a universalizing religion, so it's open to everybody. And as such, it spread primarily through the East and Southeast Asia. So you'll see China, the Koreas, Japan, Tibet, which is just north of India, all very heavily influenced by Buddhist ideas. I'll show you some pictures too, because it's super pretty. As Buddhism spread through the East, it spread through a number of different cultures that then adopted these ideas where they merged with the native culture. So you end up with a whole variety of Buddhist traditions that are all kind of different. Some of them worship God, some of them don't, etc. But you also end up with a variety of really stunning Buddhist temples. And I gave you a little selection on the slide. But this is one of those things that I just think is fun to look at. I want to go to each and every one of these places so much. All right, switching gears. Let's cover Christianity. Christianity emerged in a completely different part of the world, in the Middle East. In a part of the Middle East that at the time was part of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was this huge empire that started in Italy and then conquered a bunch of land. And one of the farthest flung provinces of this empire was a place called Judea. It's circled on the map on the slide. It is where modern day Israel is. It is at the exact location that Jews believe their promised land to be, which makes sense because it was founded by a guy named Jesus Christ, who was Jewish in Judea, a recently conquered part of the Roman Empire. We're going to go into this history more when we get to the world history part of class, but the mini version of why this is kind of a neat phenomenon, I think, is that Buddhism emerged with an upper class Hindu, somebody who had a lot of power to pursue his ideas and to spread his ideas once he had them. Christianity, on the other hand, came into being with a illiterate carpenter's son in a powerless part of the world that had recently been conquered, so even more powerless than normal. And yet, an idea that emerged in this part of the world has for sure changed history. So that alone is pretty interesting to me, and we'll go into that more, like I said, later on in the year. For now, we're just going to track like the main ideas and build a working vocabulary. So Christianity is monotheistic, like Judaism. Its founder was Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ was Jewish, and Christianity recognizes Abraham from Judaism as a prophet. The key belief of Christianity is that this Jesus Christ was the Son of God. In Judaism, there's a tradition of prophets, so people that can voice the will of God over time. So they believe. And Jewish tradition holds that they're still waiting for the final prophet, a Messiah. Jesus said, "It's me. I'm the final prophet. I am the Son of God." And the innovation here is that when Jesus was executed by the Roman Empire in the way that they tended to execute people on a crucifix, Christians believe that that allows followers of Jesus to achieve salvation through God's grace and forgiveness. There are multiple branches of Christianity. When I say branch, I mean follower of the same basic ideas of the religion, but they have slightly different interpretations, different rituals, or different ideas about how power ought to work in a religious institution. But you've probably heard of at least a couple of them. There's Catholicism first, and the head of the Catholic Church is called the Pope. Later on, Protestantism developed, and there are a number of denominations in the Protestant Church, like, I don't know, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Baptists, Methodists, lots. And then there's a third called Orthodoxy that really shaped Eastern Europe more than Catholicism, which was more of a Western Europe thing. In terms of diffusion, like Buddhism, Christianity is a universalizing religion that is open to everybody and that appealed to the lowest classes, especially because it was a very empowering idea, especially at the beginning. If you think about Christianity as an idea that emerged in the time of the Roman Empire and in a lot of ways against that Roman authority, right? Christianity, especially at the beginning, was a very empowering religion for the poorest, the outcasts, people who didn't have power in that kind of society. There are lots of quotes from the Christian Bible that illustrate this point. There's one up on the slide. It says, "It's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God." And in order to appreciate the significance of that, you have to remember that back in the day, wealth and power were they went hand in hand, and they were pretty immutable. Like, people didn't question that there were rich people and other people were poor. It was just a fact of life. And so here you have a religion saying, like, no, the powerful people in the community are not actually as powerful as all of you, the outcasts, who, because you are poor, because you are meek, will be rewarded in this religious faith. So, appeals to the lower class, spread through trade and throughout the Roman Empire. The other thing that's neat about this religion is that even though it came up as a religion of the colonized, it conquered the empire. Christianity spread throughout Europe, Originally, Romans persecuted Christians. They eventually adopted Christianity as the official state religion of their empire. And then it spread through colonization, as we saw in previous maps, conversion of indigenous people in North America, South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Oceania. So, to summarize, right? First came the ethnic religions, Judaism and Hinduism. Ethnic religions do not seek converts. They appeal to one main ethnicity and they tend to remain clustered in a smaller population. Judaism was the first monotheistic religion. It was founded by Abraham, and the main idea was this covenant between Abraham and their God, where the Jews promised to follow the Ten Commandments and are given in return the Promised Land, which is in modern-day Israel, Palestine. Then came Christianity and Islam out of that. Both of those are universalizing religions. That means they seek converts actively. They want to spread the message. That's part of the faith. And they hold that anyone can be saved or go to heaven or achieve nirvana, however different universalizing religions envision whatever salvation is to them. They offer that to anybody who converts. Christianity, with its branches of Catholicism, Protestantism, and Orthodoxy, share the same God with Judaism, and they believe that Jesus is the final prophet, allowing humans to have salvation. About 600 years later, Islam will emerge, also in the Middle East, with two branches, Sunni and Shia. And Muslims believe in the same God. They see Abraham and Jesus both as prophets, but they see Muhammad as the final prophet. We'll get to that on Monday. In a similar pattern, Hinduism, an ethnic religion from India, is defined mostly by its caste system based on behavior or karma in a past life, and you can only reach salvation by being reborn up through the highest caste. The universalizing religion that emerged out of that is Buddhism, which held that anyone can achieve nirvana in this lifetime by following the Eightfold Path.